Hello, my name is Trace. I'm from the state of Kansas, within the United States. I would like to introduce to you this channel consisting of English with a subtitle.
The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, 1892 to 1973. Chapter 6. This piece of land which Wang Lung now owned was a thing which greatly changed his life. At first, after he had dug the silver from the wall and taken it to the great house, after the honor of speaking as an equal to the old lord's equal was past, he was visited with the depression of spirit which was almost regret. When he thought of the hole in the wall, now empty, that had been filled with silver he need not use, he wished that he had his silver back. After all this land, it would take hours of labor again, and as Olan said, it was far away, more than a third of a mile. And again, the buying of it had not been quite so filled with glory as he had anticipated. He had gone too early to the great house, and the old lord was still sleeping. True, it was noon, but when he said in a loud voice, "Tell his old honor I have important business, tell him money is concerned," the gateman had answered positively, "All the money in the world would not tempt me to wake the old tiger. He sleeps with his new concubine, Peach Blossom, whom he has had but 3 days. It was not worth my life to waken him." And then he added somewhat maliciously, pulling at the hairs on his mole, "And do not think that silver will waken him. He has had silver under his hand since he was born." In the end, it had to be managed with the old lord's agent. Well, the land was his. He set out one great day in the 2nd month of the new year to look at it. None knew yet that it belonged to him, and he walked out to see it alone, a long square of heavy black clay that lay stretched beside the moat encircling the wall of the town. He paced the land off carefully, 300 paces lengthwise and 120 across. 4 stones still marked the corners of the boundaries, stones set with the great seal character of the house of Huang. Well, he would pull up the stone later, and he would put his own name there, not yet, for he was not ready for people to know that he was rich enough to buy land from the great house. But later, when he was more rich, so that it did not matter what he did, and looking at that long square of land, he thought to himself, "To those at the great house it means nothing, this handful of earth, but to me it means much." Then he had a turn of his mind, and he was filled with a contempt for himself that a small piece of land should seem so important. Why, when he had poured out his silver proudly before the agent, the man had scraped it up carelessly in his hand and said, "Here is enough for a few days of opium for the old lady at any rate." And the wide difference that still lay between him and the great house seemed suddenly impassable as the moat of water in front of him, and as high as the wall beyond, stretching up straight and hoary before him. He was filled with an angry determination then, and he said to his heart that he would fill that hole with silver again and again until he had bought from the house of Wang so much land. The old man looked after the child now, and the woman worked with the man from dawn until sunset flowed over the fields. And when Wang Long perceived one day that again she was with child, his first thought was of irritation that during the harvest she would be unable to work. He shot at her, irritable with fatigue. "So you have chosen this time to breed again, have you?" She answered stoutly, "This time it is nothing. It is only the first that is hard." Beyond this, nothing was said of the second child from the time he noticed its growth swelling her body until the day came in autumn when she laid down her hoe one morning and crept into the house. He did not go back that day even for his noon meal, for the sky was heavy with thunderclouds, and his rice lay dead ripe for gathering into sheaves. Later, before the sun set, she was back beside him, her body flattened, spent, but her face silent and undaunted. His impulse was to say, "For this day you have had enough. Go and lie upon your bed." But the aching of his own exhausted body made him cruel, and he said to himself that he had suffered as much with his labor that day as she with her childbirth, and so he only asked between the strokes of his scythe, "Is it male or female?" She answered calmly, "It is another male." They said nothing more to each other, but he was pleased, and the incessant bending and stooping seemed less arduous, and working on until the moon rose above a bank of purple clouds, they finished the field and went home. After his meal, and after he had washed his sunburnt body in cool water and had rinsed his mouth with tea, Wang Long went in to look at his second son. Olan had lain herself upon the bed after the cooking of the meal, and the child lay beside her, a fat, placid child, well enough, but not so large as the first one. Wang Long looked at him and then went back to the middle room well content. Sons every year. The house was full of good fortune. This woman brought him nothing but good fortune, he shouted to his father. Now, old one, with another grandson, we shall have to put the big one in our bed. The old man was delighted. He had for a long time been desiring this child to sleep in his bed and warm his chilly old flesh with the renewal of young bones and blood, but the child would not leave his mother. He stared at this new child beside his mother, and seeming to comprehend with his grave eyes that another had his place, he allowed himself without protest to be placed in his grandfather's bed. And again the harvests were good, and Wang Long gathered silver from the selling of his produce, and again he hid it in the mall. But the rice he reaped from the land of the Hwangs brought him twice as much as that from his own rice land, and everyone knew now that Wang Long owned this land.